In 40 years, Steve Stenehjem has grown his family's bank 100-fold, reaching more than $5 billion in assets in more than 30 branches. The newest location is right here in Sioux Falls, where First International Bank and Trust is making a big statement from a prominent new location. So your name, which I have learned, Stenehjem.
Stenehjem, yep.
I bet people take all kinds of attempts at that.
There's been a lot of mispronunciations over the years, but you know, it's a very unique name. There's only one family of Stenehjems in the whole United States.
Wow. The story of First International Bank and Trust is very much a family story.
It's very unique to have a business in the same family for 113 years. And the bank was founded by my grandfather when he was 22 years old in 1910 in a small town of Arnegard, North Dakota.
22, wow.
Yeah, 22 years old.
Entrepreneur at an early age. Do you have any idea what made him do that?
Well, he came out to homestead and get free land like all of his older brothers and sisters did. And they determined that the small town of Arnegard needed a bank.
Steve Stenehjem grew up in Watford City, North Dakota, home of the Bakken oil fields.
I worked at the bank part-time, but my dad had a farm and ranch, so I helped out wherever I was needed. So I did, most of the time I was working on the farm and ranch, you know, hauling grain or moving cattle, you know, harvesting, cutting hay, hauling hay bales, that sort of thing. But I also would work in the bank in the summer when employees were on vacation and they needed somebody to fill in.
He majored in banking and finance, but first worked in restaurant management in Arizona.
So your best times in the restaurant business were on weekends and holidays, and so that's when you needed to make sure you showed up for work. And I decided, well, that's not, you know, always that great when you have to work when everybody else is having fun. I'd like to be the ones having fun sometimes. So I decided that maybe I should look for somewhere else besides just the restaurant business.
He ended up working for Wells Fargo in a management training role in Bismarck before coming into his family bank in the late 1970s. So when I look at your time now leading the bank, the growth has been pretty astronomical.
It has been.
Was that your vision taking over to see how much you could evolve this bank, or did one thing lead to another over time?
Well, about the time I got to the bank, we were about $40 million in size. Today, we're about $5 billion in size. What I knew back in the late 70s and the early 80s, is, 82 was when I moved back permanently to the bank. I knew that a single bank in a small town wasn't going to be able to compete forever. There was just getting to be too much government regulation and too much compliance and too much technology, you know, too many changes in technology. And I thought it was going to take at least, you're going to have to own at least 3 banks to have the size to afford compliance and technology and that sort of thing.
At this point, it was a single location.
It was a single location.
Wow. Okay.
Single location with a branch in a town 20 miles away. There's one person office. And so I thought, you know, we're gonna have to really grow in order to compete in the future. And this was at a time when, you know, ATMs were just coming out, fax machines were just coming out, which, you know, might not seem so technological now, but back then they were pretty big strides forward. And even like copy machines were changing from thermofax to plain paper. And so there was quite a few changes, and I just realized that, hey, we're going to have to write some checks and compete, and you're going to need more scale, more banking assets to be able to afford it.
Were there some key strategic decisions along the way that really set you up for where you are today?
Oh, yes. And I got to give a lot of credit to my dad for backing me. You know, so our first move was to go buy a bank in Fessenden, North Dakota. And my dad was, you know, I found the bank for sale, and my dad was very good about saying he'd support me in that effort. And so that was the first bank that, besides the one we had, to go after.
Mm-hmm. And over the years, you've diversified what you offer as a bank significantly.
Yes, we've offered a lot more products, you know, and tried to make banking more convenient for our customers as we've gone along. You know, that started out with telephone banking, that started with PC banking, and now it's your mobile apps, like your phones and personal computers, laptops, all that sort of thing.
They've also navigated the boom and bust and latest boom in the Bakken oil region.
We always hoped the oil boom would come back, but we didn't know if it ever would. We thought it would because the oil was still there, but we didn't know if it'd ever come back in our lifetimes. So when they developed the technology of horizontal drilling and fracking, I mean, that's what opened up the Bakken. And that was a huge thing for us. So I was thrilled when that happened. And it's been great for our customers. It's been great for our employees and workforce and our state and all that sort of thing, and our country. I mean, for a while, a number of years ago, we had energy independence in our country because of this shale revolution. And to see that happen where we weren't dependent upon foreign countries that hate us, it was kind of thrilling to think that we were a big part of that.
It's also brought market challenges to the area that are even more acute than in Sioux Falls.
It's always been a challenge to have enough workforce in Western North Dakota. We've never had enough trades. We've never had enough people that knew how to frame houses or pour concrete or lay carpet or do HVAC, electricians, plumbers, all that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, all these jobs were available in Western North Dakota, so we had people moving there from all over the place, which was a wonderful thing. And what it did, it provided a lot of opportunity for young people in Western North Dakota that for generations had been moving away. And now all of a sudden they could move back and find better jobs than their parents ever had, which is very fun to see. And we still have really low unemployment, like 3%. One of the things we're building in Western North Dakota is a Bakken Skill Center, which is a career development place to help train people for all these oil field jobs.
I want to talk a bit about Sioux Falls now.
Yes.
And this market. What put Sioux Falls on your radar as a bank?
Well, it's interesting, our customers. We had customers that were locating businesses here in town and just talking to us about the opportunities down here that they saw for their businesses. And then we started seeing Sioux Falls businesses locate in some of the communities that we had offices in North Dakota. And so it just kind of catches your eye that, hey, we've got these Sioux Falls, South Dakota companies that are moving up here, or we have some North Dakota companies that are moving down there. And it just kind of caught our eye and caught our attention and thought, and eventually you decide, hey, we need to locate an office down there because our customers are already there.
Mm-hmm. What have your initial impressions of the market been?
Good. I mean, we think it's a great market for us. We're very into lending to small businesses, industry, commercial businesses, and we think there's a great amount of those kind of businesses here in town that fit our niche perfectly.
With its new downtown headquarters at 14th Street and Minnesota Avenue, the bank took on a high-profile location and an extensive renovation.
We always like to build nice stuff. If you look at some of our other locations that we've done, we'd rather take our time and do it right than do it quickly. And we tend to use good architectural firms that have great ideas, and so that's what we experienced here. We just like the location. We think it's a busy, Minnesota Street's a great street to be on. This location just kind of kept coming back to us. We actually had bought another location in town that we planned to build on. When we found this location and decided that's where we want to build initially.
Well, it's sort of a gateway to downtown, too, this
Yes.
intersection. And I saw that your family, company, are big supporters of downtown. You had a lot to do with downtown Watford City.
Yes.
What kind of community involvement do you see yourselves having here?
Well, we really encourage community involvement. That's been a big part of the history of our bank. I can tell you some stories about my parents. My mom and dad, growing up, they were members of about every club in town. My dad was a Lion, and he was in Rotary, he was in Masons, just everything, Chamber of Commerce. My mom was in Toastmistress and Women's Club and the auxiliaries that supported the hospital and the nursing home. just lots of different things. And so when I got back to Watford City in the early 80s, I asked my dad, what he wanted me to be doing. And he basically said, well, you're going to be spending about 50% of your time keeping this small town alive. And that's what I expect. And so we encourage our employees, to have community involvement. We think getting to know the community, getting to know our customers is a big part of what makes them great employees and which helps us to be a good bank and serve our customers.
The Stenehjem family's fingerprints are all over Watford City, from supporting its downtown redevelopment to its local hospital.
One of the big ones is the local hospital. My grandfather on my mom's side was the only doctor in our community for a long time, off and on during his career. He moved there in about 1915, and he died in 1962. But throughout his career, he helped deliver almost 4,000 babies, and he helped found the local hospital. And so I think our support of the hospital is kind of a big thing. They just built a new hospital in the last 6 or 7 years, and we were a big part of donating money to that project. And a lot of our employees have served on the hospital board or the foundation board. That's probably one of the big things that stands out. The other thing would be the school system. We've donated a lot of land to school projects in Watford City. We donated the land as a family for the new high school. We donated the land for the newest elementary school.
As for Sioux Falls, downtown is the latest of multiple locations. The bank came into the market with a mortgage office in southwest Sioux Falls in 2020 and owns land at 69th Street and Minnesota Avenue for a future location.
Eventually, we'll certainly have probably 3 offices. I don't know what the time frame will be for that. It all depends upon how well we're accepted in town and how much room we need.
I'm curious just to get your thoughts on banking in general today. It's rare, first of all, to see a newcomer to a market make a big investment like this, or even build out a branch network so much anymore, combined with just all of the other forces at play in banking in the financial world today. What kind of year are you guys expecting, and what's your take on just some of the broader macro factors going on in your industry?
Knock on wood, but I mean, each year tends to be the best year for us. I mean, this year was better than the previous year. We expect 2023 to be better than 2022 as far as profitability goes, continued growth. There's no question that the banking industry is changing, and customers come in offices less often because they can do their banking with mobile apps and that sort of thing. And so we're seeing fewer transactions take place in our individual offices, but more transactions taking place, by other means. So we like to see brick and mortar offices, just because it kind of makes a statement that we're here to stay. But we'll see how the future transpires, I guess. Well,
speaking of the future, you just marked 40 years, but you do have a next generation of family in the business. What does that look like? And
yeah, it's fun for me. I have 3 of my 4 children that are involved in the bank. My son Peter is with us, and he is in Fargo, North Dakota. Does a great job with business development up there. He's the current head president of their Chamber of Commerce up there. My son Eric, who will be here later today, is down in Phoenix, Arizona, and does a great job for us in that market. And my daughter Kira, who happens to be here today, is with us in Watford City, as is my wife. They both work in our marketing department at the bank. So 3 of my 4 children are involved in the bank. My youngest is a medical doctor in Washington, D.C. But she is on our bank holding company board, and certainly gives her opinions when asked.
And while they're bankers, they're also brewers after getting into the business to encourage more young people to stay in their community.
When I decided to add on to our bank in Watford City, I looked around and tried to talk locals into, improving or doing a restaurant and to doing a movie theater. And I thought I had people on board with that, and I started on the construction project. When it came time to put pen to paper and actually commit to a lease, I couldn't get anybody to do it. And so I thought, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess it's going to be me. So I built a restaurant lounge, and I built a movie theater. my wife looked at me like I was crazy, and she told me, you know, I'm not gonna hostess in that restaurant, or, you know, bartend or wash dishes. And of course, within 6 months of me opening it, she'd done all those jobs. But that's kind of how we got into the restaurant business. And then as the boom came and the town grew, we thought, gee, we need another restaurant in this town. The first one was called Outlaws Bar and Grill, and it was right next to the bank, and we thought, gee, let's have a theme of outlaws, you know, bank robbers right next to the bank. And so the new one we built on the east side of Watford City, and we decided to have a pizza pasta place with a brewery. And so we thought, well, what should we name this place? And we ended up, you know, going with our name, Stenehjem Brewing Company. I mean, Stenehjem in Norwegian means stone home, so we started up a brewery, Stenehjem Brewing Company, and it's been pretty successful. We've got quite a few different beers that are pretty popular, and actually later today at our ribbon cutting, we'll have a few Stenehjem beers that people can try.
So do you still own 2 restaurants and a movie theater?
We actually own 6 restaurants, and 6 restaurants, a movie theater, and a coffee place.
Sioux Falls always likes a new restaurant.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Welcome again to Sioux Falls. Thanks for helping us get to know you and get to know the bank a little bit better.
Well, thank you. It's sure nice to meet you. I appreciate your questions, and we're really looking forward to being here in Sioux Falls.
We'd like to thank MarketBeat for sponsoring the CEO series. Stay tuned for more conversations with CEOs making news throughout the year. And for all your latest business headlines, stay with us at SiouxFalls.Business.